Go.
What happened? Your balls drop off?
This is 12 Gauge Investigative. Let's jump in.
Well. I was muted. Isn't that awesome? Hello, my name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. I hope everybody's having an awesome Saturday. I thought I'd get on here, like I said, while I was muted, and give you guys a case fresh out of the headlines, circa 1992, though. But you have to understand, things didn't really change that much from 1992 to 2022. So let's get on with it. So, welcome everybody that's in the chat right now. And let's get on with this because I found this a while ago while I was going through my videos and actually putting some more videos up so that my new subscribers can get a taste of the new and old. You're going to hear the old 12 gauge and you're going to hear the new 12 gauge. The new 12 gauge obviously is wearing the tank top because it is 93 degrees here in Texas. So let me go ahead and this article, and I thought I'd present it to you guys and see what you guys think when it comes to the similarities and the differences in this case. So let me go ahead and start reading this. This is an interview by The Independent. The title says, "I lived through an attack similar to the Idaho murders. We must defend the survivors. Why I've been so adamant about supporting the surviving housemate in the Idaho murders case." This was written Tuesday, January 17, 2023. And there is Alanna Zabel. It was an amazing, fun, vibrant summer in 1992. I was living in a 3-leveled house off a campus from the University of Buffalo with 5 of my Chi Omega sorority sisters. Mine was the front room, a converted patio. The original entrance door was sealed shut and drywalled over so you wouldn't know that from the inside. Our partying continued into September which constant late nights out at the bars until they closed at 4 a.m., followed by sleeping in every weekend. One Thursday evening, we all went to the Steer, a local bar within walking distance of our house. Around 10 p.m., I offered to walk my friend home as she left early. She turned to me, rolled her eyes, and said, "Alanna, I'm from New York. If something were going to happen to me, it would have happened to me by now." Regardless, I grabbed a friend and we trailed 50 steps behind her. Then I saw a man standing with a bicycle across the street from our house watching us. I didn't think any more about it and went back to the Steer. The next night, we all went out again. We drove to downtown Buffalo, where we sludged Jägermeister, laughed, and listened to music before deciding to go to a fraternity party not far from our home. The same housemate who left early that night before decided to skip the party. Since we had only brought one set of keys, she agreed to let us in when we each arrived home. We were getting increasingly hammered, Jägermeister mixed with beer, so not long after getting to the party, Christian left. I stayed a little while longer, somehow finding a second wind. Around 1:30, Peggy and I decided we would go to PJ Bottoms, another local hotspot for UB college students. But we'd have to stop by home first, as my fake ID was in Christian. Okay, so you can tell that she's telling you that she noticed this man watching them the first night. They played it off. She went home. The next night they went out. They went to the Steer, which was a local bar, and they were hanging out again. They were in Buffalo, New York. They listened to music before deciding to go to a fraternity party that wasn't far from their home. Purse. The side entrance from the driveway had 3 options: downstairs, second level, or upstairs. Donna, who lived downstairs with Kristen, let me in while Peggy waited in the car. Kristen gave me my ID and we left. I never went up to the second level, the floor I lived on with Emily, Carrie, and my other housemate. After a couple of hours at PJ Bottoms, Peggy and I called it a night. At 3:30 a.m., she pulled into the driveway at our house to drop me off before waiting until I got inside safely. For 15 minutes, I rang the doorbell, kicked the door, and screamed my housemates' names. Yet no one let me in. Peggy got out of the car and pointed to a bathroom window open on the second level. She laced her hands together and boosted me up through it. I noted the screen laying on the floor, so I put it back and locked the window. There was an odd smell and some wet towels in the sink, but I continued into the hallway. I saw my housemate's door cracked open and I called her name, but upon hearing some heavy breathing, I assumed she was with her boyfriend. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention to this part right here because I want you to think about the similarities between the Idaho 4 case and this lady's recollection of what she's seeing as she walked in and she's hearing heavy breathing. She saw some wet towels in the sink. She smelled a foul odor. Pay attention to what she's saying, okay? Because it's giving you another recollection, a firsthand recollection of exactly what could have been the same experience inside the Idaho 4 house. I went down to the kitchen and let Peggy inside to confirm together that the house was safe. Peggy left and I went to my bedroom. About 15 minutes later, as I began to doze off, I felt someone enter my room. I lifted and turned my head, but I didn't see anyone. Seconds later, I heard the front door shut and assumed that someone had come home. I then fell asleep. Around 9:30 a.m., Carrie came into my room asking why the heck the house smelled so bad. She asked me if I'd vomited the night before. I brushed her off, remembered the Jägermeister, telling her I had not. She returned 10 minutes later, same thing with more insistent. Carrie, I didn't throw up last night. So she left again. The third time, Carrie said she couldn't wake our housemate. We both went into her room and found her laying on her back with her eyes closed. Carrie took her pulse and I shook her feet and legs while screaming her name. She was not responding. I ran to the kitchen to call 911, reporting that my roommate had choked on her vomit. I then proceeded to make one of the most challenging phone calls of my life, letting her parents know something was wrong. When the paramedics arrived, I followed one as they approached the room and stepped backward, causing me to jump. Holy shit, look at all this blood. The room instantly filled with red. The mattress was 3/4 soaked with blood. The liquid I saw in her hair and on her face turned red. The walls were streaked with red. Everything changed. My mind began racing as to who, what, how, faster than I could process the thoughts, compounded with emotion never felt before. All of my protective walls disintegrated, and fear overtook every aspect of my being. We were told that my housemate only had another 20 to 30 minutes left to live, which thankfully she did. It took several years for a suspect to be named, and it was the very first conviction in Eric County with DNA evidence at the primary link to the perpetrator. However, before that relief and closure, I spent the first year utterly tortured. A homicide detective working on the investigation became a close and frequent contact. When he first arrived at the house the day of the attack to ask me questions, he sat me down and said, "Listen," while he closed his eyes. "Listen, and the scene will talk to you. It will tell you what happened." I closed my eyes and sat there, almost meditating with this detective. My sorority sisters nicknamed me Holmes because I couldn't move on until I knew who had done this. I began my own investigations, likely to the annoyance of the officers assigned to the case, who I called with my hunches and suspicions. I couldn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I felt someone chasing me in the bathroom. As I stepped inside the window, the what ifs were shredding my sanity, as well as the guilt for not calling 911 sooner. To think that I slept yards away while she lay. Did you hear what she just said? She said the guilt of not calling 911 sooner. I mean, so this is from somebody who witnessed a housemate being attacked. I know you can't really understand my voice because it's deep and kind of like whatever, but it says, because I couldn't move until I knew who had done this. I began my own investigation, likely to the annoyance of the officers assigned to the case, who I called my hunches and suspicions. I couldn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I felt someone chasing me in that bathroom as I stepped inside the window. The what ifs were shredding my sanity, as well as the guilt for not calling 911 sooner. To think that I slept yards away while she lay unconscious from being beaten, unspeakably brutally. One thing that is important to share is the uncertainty over what happened is absolute mental torture for someone who has experienced a situation like this. That is why I have been so adamant that supporting the surviving housemates in the Idaho murders case. The similarities to what happened to me are jarring, from environment to timing to relationship to ages. We all went out that night before, both to a local fraternity party and local stomping ground bar full of college students. Both incidents occurred between 3 and 4 a.m., and both found the main suspect based on DNA left at the scene of the crimes. Our attacker was a rapist who was stalking us, while the Idaho suspect is also said to have stalked his victims who didn't know who he was. While I personally didn't see our attacker as one of the surviving Idaho housemates did, I'm sure that both she and her other roommate are devastated just the same. Let me stop right there. What do y'all think about that? Chat, what do y'all think about that? Give me some feedback. That is some parallel type stuff right there. And like Nina says, I've always said the survivor's guilt of probably eating Dylan and Bethany up. The first case in Erie County, New York that DNA was used to solve took place in 1974. Thank you for that. Isn't that kind of ironic that almost the same scenario? As she said, the first time that she went in there, she didn't see any blood. She thought that she had vomited on herself and she wasn't responding. But when she went in there with the EMS, all of a sudden, everything turned bloody. She saw the blood soaking in the mattress. She saw the blood all over her roommate. And all she heard was the heavy breathing. So she thought something was going on between the roommate and another guy. Allie says, I think that she can relate to Dylan and Bethany in that way. Yeah, I agree with you. Let me see. From environment to timing to relationships to ages. We all went. Can you understand my deep voice? If you can, I'll just leave it playing. It sounds really deep and muddled to me, but if y'all can understand it, I'll let myself continue to read this. Can y'all understand it? It sounds like I'm mumbling to me. How about the rest of you? Rondi said yes. Anybody else? Can y'all understand it? Not the live voice, the one that's reading the one that's in there. There may have been 2 survivors in Idaho, but really there wasn't. Their lives as they knew it ended that night. Can y'all understand it? I'll let it play. Went out the night before, both the local fraternity party and local stomping ground bar for college students. Both incidents occurred between 3 and 4 a.m. and both found the main suspects based on DNA left at the scene of the crimes. Our attacker was a rapist who was stalking us, while the Idaho suspect is also said to have stalked his victims who didn't know who he was. While I personally didn't see our attacker as one of the surviving Idaho housemates did, I'm sure that both she and her other roommates are devastated just the same. I remember feeling overwhelmingly guilt and paramount fear that I had done something wrong. I would also imagine that the what ifs are overpowering their minds as well, thinking, what if I was in the kitchen getting a glass of water when he entered? And so on, as the mind works to process this ungodly and horrific experience. I compartmentalized what happened, made myself adapt to situations where I felt unsafe. I never wanted to identify as a victim, so I didn't tell many people in my life about it. Yet, I eventually changed my life direction, finding a path Or perhaps it found me as a yoga instructor, author, and sound healer as a means to work out something I couldn't fully grasp. Reliving this 30 years later hasn't been easy as I continue to connect the dots. My advice to those surviving housemates and to anyone who has experienced a trauma like this is to take time to process their feelings by talking about them in safe environments with trusted people. Write about it, create artwork about it, dance it out, cry, scream, dedicate some of your creativity to the victims, to metaphorically keep their candles lit. We simply cannot let evil win by making us fearful, diminished, or unwell for the rest of our precious lives. Nothing can destroy love, ever.
Remarkably similar to Dylan as I look at the parallels. You were also 19 years old. You were also living in a house with 5 sorority sisters. What did you think when you heard about this case? Could you put yourself in Dylan's shoes?
Right away. And the more that evidence came out and the story came out, it just became chillingly eerie how similar it was.
Did the circumstance that I just sort of outlined make sense to you, given that you heard some unusual noise and chalked it up to, it's just the roommates. This is a normal house in a normal town in a normal life. And there's Dylan seeing a guy walk through the house. Maybe it was the DoorDash driver. I mean, yuck, but murder?
A little bit. Also, I was boosted up through a window that the attacker had broken in. So it wasn't that I was home when he attacked and when he broke in. But so there are similarities. I didn't see the attacker. I just know that when I found my housemate the next morning, I didn't see any blood in the room. All I saw was liquid. I was trying to find a pulse and shake her. And when I called 911, just saying that my housemate choked on her vomit and I can't wake her up and she's unconscious.
Did you hear what she said? She said she didn't see blood or notice blood. All she saw was some kind of liquid. It wasn't until the EMS people came that she noticed and came to and saw all the blood. And she didn't do anything till the next morning either. And nobody attacked her, thank God.
When the paramedics arrived, I was standing behind a paramedic and he announced, "Holy, look at all of this blood." And in that second that he said blood, the whole entire room filled. So I know that the mind does very tricky things when it is trying to keep you safe and keep you functioning and keep you in fight or flight, because that is the mechanism of the mind. So that is why I really empathize with what Dylan went through. We don't know the story. We don't know her history.
Yeah, explain that a little more for me. What happened that morning when you woke up? I'm just assuming you think it's a normal morning. You're knocking on your roommate's door. Take me from there.
Well, I came in through the window and the screen was out, so that was a little bizarre. And I went to my housemates, the only other housemate that came home that night. There was 4 of us on that floor and 2 didn't come home that night, so I was the only one that came home. I went to her door, which was ajar, and I heard heavy breathing. And so I thought, oh, okay, I called her name. She didn't respond. So I just went to bed. And my room was in the front of the house, was a converted old Buffalo home, which used to be the patio. So since this attacker came through the window, he assumed that was the exit. I'm in bed, just about to go to sleep, very intoxicated. And someone walks into my room and I lift up my head and no one was there. And 10 seconds later, the front door closed. Now, no one came home. So we know that's when he left. So that fear and that panic to this day stirs me. I didn't sleep really for a year after this experience, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw someone chasing me and the guilt and, oh, what if I had called 911 sooner? So when then the reality of what had happened the next day occurred, the pieces just start coming together. Investigators start coming in. You're trying to figure out what happened. So I can really empathize really a lot with Dylan.
If there was something that you could tell Dylan, and for that matter, Bethany Funk as well, because she was also there that next morning. If you could say something to those girls, what would you say?
What I would say is what you resist will persist. And I wish that I had dealt and processed this sooner back then. I've said this on a couple other shows that this was a different age. No one came to my rescue and offered me therapy. And there wasn't social media that blew up our attack, big as this is. So people are experiencing more concern. So I just moved on with my life, whether that's good or bad. And I became a strong person, and that I chose to help people and serve. Now, re-experiencing this 30 years later, sure, there's a lot of pain. And I realized, wow, I wish I had processed it sooner, because I can connect the dots a little bit to things in my life that have occurred probably because this was unprocessed. And that's how it works. So I encourage them to do the work, heal, take time, write, meditate, process this experience, make sense of it somehow emotionally and mentally, so that you can continue being a shining light in this life and honor your friends and help other people, because you have a reference point that most people will never have.
Alanna, I only have 5 seconds left, but I just want to ask if you're going to make an effort to reach out to them at some point down the road when they're able to speak, to help them process, being that you've been through this.
I have sent a message, so they have my contact. If they need anything, I'm absolutely here, however I can help.
Well, I'm so thankful that you shared this tonight, and so clearly. You're a remarkable woman. Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it. Thank you for. There is still one big unanswered question hanging over the Idaho murder case, and that is why. If Bryan Kohberger really is the killer, why? Why did he do it? Right now, it appears there is only one person in the world who knows the answer, and Kohberger ain't talking. But there might be a way for the rest of us to retrace the steps that led him into that cold Moscow jail cell. A series of posts that were found online, some of them really disturbing, just might have been written by Kohberger when he was a teenager. Here's an example from 2011 when he was 16. It reads, "I see a large intensity of black, yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle, and I can barely keep in the bounds of reality. It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me." Dozens and dozens of posts like this were.
Welcome, Nina. How are you doing?
I'm hoping that the signal strength just picked up, but boy, my signal strength was really poor, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to be in here.
Yeah, we can hear you good. I mean, you're fine. So,
Okay.
what did you think about the first part of it?
Well, I had seen that story and everything, but the thing about it is, can you get her on the show?
That would be nice. I was just thinking that too.
We think a lot alike.
If somebody can reach out to her and get her on the show, that would be awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people, that story was out and everything, but of course, everybody just wants to overlook stuff like that.
Yeah.
I
Good
mean,
evening.
and they just want to go with the narrative that, they're in on it, or they did this, or they did that. And the thing about it is, nobody will ever understand what Dylan and Bethany felt, anything like that, until they are in their shoes.
Well, what did you think when she said she walked into the room? She thought that she had choked on her own vomit.
Right.
She didn't, she saw the liquid, but she didn't.
But
That
even
didn't.
at that, she was like, okay, it's not real. I mean, even seeing it.
It didn't process with her until the EMS guy said, "Damn, look at all this blood." Then all
Right.
of a sudden she came to, and all of a sudden she sees all the blood on the wall, on the mattress, all over her friend, her roommate. I mean, it's pretty intense, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, that's the
Very
thing
well
about it is,
crime. It's a parallel crime to say the least. I mean, it sounds like it could have been the same damn person.
Yeah, look, but he wasn't born until 4 years later, so.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying I got that email
But the
from you.
thing about it is, it's pretty amazing what the brain will do to protect you.
Yeah. I'm going to show you guys an email I just received. It was pretty funny, so I want to share it with you guys. This is hilarious. A lot of people have been doing photoshopping and stuff, and we're just having a good time. So nobody get hurt. What do y'all think about that one?
Oh my God, that's funnier than mine.
Isn't that hilarious?
Man, and then Jeff's going to comment that he wished I'd have hid the thumb behind the knife. And I was like, dang it.
That's just too much. Dolphin, this case was in 1992. So this is the surviving. Her name is Alexa. Let's see what her name is again. Alanna Zabel, I think was her name. Alanna Zabel. She's the one that walked in on her roommate that went through the same situation as the Idaho 4 case. Yeah, it is a different case, but the similarities are just striking to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was telling Nina, it could have been the same person committing this crime, except it was so many years earlier. What do you think about this little aspect right here where he says, I see a large intensity of black, yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle, and I can barely keep in the bounds of reality. It is as the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all the demons in my head mocking me.
Well, I have every Tapatalk that he did. That's how I found out about the Kaufman diet and the Candida overgrowth is through Tapatalk. And the thing about it is, I honestly believe, and I will believe it no matter what, that he's been planning this for 10 years.
Okay. Listening to some of my older videos that I unprivated today. So if y'all saw a barrage of video just hitting members only and hitting out there, that's what was happening. I was unprivating a lot of my videos. I was actually listening to one, and it's interesting how close we are with a lot of the stuff that has came out based on our theories back then. I gave you props last night, by the way.
I heard, thank you.
You did hear that? I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I watched it on replay. I really do appreciate that.
You're welcome, because you and I both talked about that very early on, and nobody really gave us much credence for that.
No, they laughed at us.
Huh?
They laughed at us.
Right. And even this video right here, when I was looking at it, it only got 14 views.
Right.
So,
And the thing about it is, I did a whole series. I think it's like 5 videos on ego depletion and everything, and they didn't get any views.
I think next Friday night, Nina, maybe we can do the whole series of ego depletion together.
Okay.
That way we can reintroduce people exactly what that is and how it came to be. Because, many people have taken that as their own and they misrepresented the information because they didn't do the research. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? It was given
Oh
to
yeah.
you.
I mean, like I said, I took it as far. Roy Baumeister is the psychiatrist that wrote about it and everything. That's what he's known for. And I actually took it a step further and I emailed him. I said, look, this is what I think. Am I crazy or what? And I have the email where he responded back to me, and he was like, wow, I've never put them like together, but if they coincided, it could be really bad.
Right. So maybe next Friday, guys, if you are in the area, I know it's Good Friday, but if you don't have anything going on, maybe you can stop by the channel and
I would
learn
really appreciate that.
and learn a little bit about the ego depletion. Maybe you can unprivate your videos, Dina, so we can use them. That way we don't
Oh,
have
I
to
did that.
that way we don't have to go digging in all the emails and stuff to represent, what ego depletion is, because it does have a lot to do with what I was talking about last night. Last night I was talking a lot about that at a particular
Right.
point, and I even brought in the alcohol, filtering through the blood and all this stuff as far as Dylan being intoxicated and all this, So I'd really enjoy to be able to do that if you're up for it.
Of course. I mean, that would really, thank you for that.
You're
Because
welcome.
I sent you the research, and that I put a lot of work into that.
Well, that's another thing. If you do the work, you should be the one given the credit. You should be the one that get to present it. And if you need a little help, I'm here to kind of, help you out a little bit or as much as I possibly can. But, it's your stuff, so it should be shared with, a lot of people. So yeah, let's try to do that next
And
Friday.
the thing about it is, it's more along the lines because everybody's question is motive. And it doesn't, I'll tell anybody that sometimes the urge to take a life is stronger than the motive of greed or revenge or anything. Just that urge is the
Okay.
motive.
So let's go ahead. I talk about this Tapatalk stuff, and I don't really know a lot about it because, like I said last night, this was boring to me. Um, Another part of it that the grub truck was boring to me, Banfield was boring to me. A lot of parts that people spend a lot of time on were boring to me, I mean, I know that this plays a role in it somewhere, but I didn't go really deep into all this. So that's why I have you up here to explain anything that I don't
Well,
get clear.
before you start, I have a question about last night.
Okay.
Did I hear correctly last night on the documentary that you were playing, and they were talking about Papa Rogers and outside looking? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear them correctly when it said that he got kicked out of the Facebook group and that he started one of his own called Moscow Anything Goes?
Yes, you did hear that correctly.
Okay, because as soon as I heard it, I got my tablet and I was like trying to look it up. And the new one, his is not available. But I went all the way to the beginning of that group, and it says that they are from that group and that it got took over. You know what I'm saying? So the people from that group still have one called Moscow um, Anything Goes.
Yeah, you did hear that correctly. You did hear that
Wow,
correctly.
I never knew that.
I never knew that either. It's interesting all the stuff that if you really listen, you hear some nuggets that instead of listening to other things, you hear some nugget that people actually give you.
Right.
So let's go on with this and let's see where it goes. I don't even remember this video.
Yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle, and I can barely keep in the bounds of reality. It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. Dozens and dozens of posts like this were written on a site called Tapatalk, in a forum for people who believed that they were suffering from a condition called visual snow syndrome. News Nation has not been able to independently verify that these are Kohberger's early posts, but there are strong indications that they are. And I'm joined now by the two people who found them. Lauren Mathias is a reporter who's been following this case very closely. And John Mathias, her husband, is a clinical and forensic psychologist who's done a deep dive into what the posts might mean. Together, they host the Hidden True Crime podcast. And welcome to both of you. Lauren, how did you make this discovery and how did you link it to Bryan Kohberger?
Yeah, it was the Hidden True Crime team that did this together. And there was a verified email address that we used that uncovered these writings from 2011, the post. The photo looks to be a side-by-side of Bryan. The username is an email that he used, as well as his rapper name. He did some raps online, and he confirms his own birthday and a relative's address, as well as living in Pennsylvania. So things do seem to add up, as well as the hundreds of pages that we have poured over reading. Everything matches up to look like this is Bryan Kohberger writing as a 16-year-old boy.
And there's like an array of writings. You say hundreds and hundreds of pages. That's just remarkable to start with from a teenager.
Okay, Nina, you just said that you've scoured over those Tapatalks. How many have you looked at? Would you say?
I have read from the very first post to the last post.
Okay, so I know that neither one of us are experts when it comes to autism, but did you ever read in there anything about incel, anything that would have precluded a mentioning of potential kind of autistic traits, any kind of balance issues, any kind of coordination, any kind of issues dealing with certain type things in life like that?
No, the only thing in Tapatalk is you really get to know who he is. And I mean, there's like at one point they start blocking him and stuff because he's like taking on people that are in the group, you know. I mean, and I mean, you can tell that he's an asshole. I mean, I hate to put it like that, but I mean, you can tell that he's definitely one of those I'm smarter than you and blah blah blah. And the reason that he started with the Tapatalk with the visual snow is because he was trying to figure out the symptoms that he had and everything. And along the middle, probably about the middle of it, is when he starts talking about the Kaufman diet. And the Kaufman diet is where what is the reason that it's said that he's a vegan. And basically all it is the Kaufman diet takes vegan, keto, stuff like that, that foods that you eat that get rid of toxins and the candida overgrowth and stuff like that. And he was so obsessed with the purities of his body that he tried two other diets before the Kaufman diet. And when he found the Kaufman diet, that's when he really dug in. And that's when he started doing the jogging and the boxing and stuff like that, because part of the Kaufman diet is also the physical exercise and everything.
Okay.
And Kaufman diet is on YouTube. I mean, the guy and everything is on YouTube.
So you never really, Dolphin seconded that. She said, I don't recall anything like that. And the same thing as him being argumentative. This is at 16. So these are the formative years, right? So
Yeah.
not everything is firing 100% at 16. So a lot of these writing could have been really emotionally driven, hormones going out of whack, things like that. Um, I didn't read them, so I mean, I'm just taking both of y'all's understandings on this because does it seem like this was the beginning of something that was going to turn into something worse? Or was it just
Yeah.
mostly about the visual snow?
Tapatalk is actually where I got a lot of the information that made me believe that he'd been planning it. Is because even though he's only 16, And I mean, his first post was actually like 2009, and it goes up until like 2011. And here's
Mhm.
what's funny is back to 2011, if you do an analysis of Google Trends and stuff of searches, somebody was searching all the way back to 2011, Brian Koberger suspect. Now, who else would be searching that besides Brian Koberger at 2011?
Right. I've heard you say that. But
Yeah.
but you didn't notice anything that struck you as, this is something that's going to add, because you don't have to be a therapist to really
Oh
understand
no,
the
that's what I
pattern
was
that
saying. That's
somebody.
what made me believe that he was already in the process of being a voyeur or doing some unethical behaviors. But that's what led me into thinking that it was planned for 10 years, is because even at 16, he was using the words like dissociation and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, he's sitting there putting all this up for the, insanity plea or something.
Right. Well, let's finish seeing what these two got to say.
Teenager. But this went from 2009 to 2012, I think ages 14 to 17, John, and just sort of your overall impressions of the body of work as you went through it.
I think there's a couple pieces here that are most relevant. There's a couple pages that really kind of speak to his mental state at the time, but I think the overall picture that emerges here is this is a very troubled adolescent with many mental health issues. In fact, there's so many symptoms that he identifies, it's hard to know where to start.
I mean, it's sad and scary, sort of all at the same time, to hear that, because you think of a teenager suffering, but then you think of the person we're talking about, and it's hard to feel any sympathy at all if he's indeed the killer. Lauren, in 2009, the posts were pretty short. But then in 2010, they start to get longer. They're more confessional. They don't talk so much about his visual snow condition, whereas, it's a physiological situation where you see, a snowy outlook on life, basically. But these ones were more about his childhood and his life. Let me read this one. I can't remember anything recent or anything from childhood. Now I am just a blank soul living in the now. My mind is never not on visual snow, and I always wonder what a normal person would be doing while I sit there and suffer. This whole thing has made me crazy. I feel like my life is pointless because people can think about times with parents, childhood, memories, and be happy, and I won't be able to. Do we know, Lauren, if he ever got any help for this, if he saw a doctor, if anybody reached out to him and, tried to treat him?
We don't know what medical help he got. We do see that on these posts throughout these years, he tries different diets. He works really hard to try an array of diets, which actually confirms what a relative and friends have said about him being a very strict vegan or strict eater. It seems that he thinks that's the cause of what is called visual snow. And I think that, but again, it goes further than these physical symptoms, which is why I had to, take this to my husband, Dr. John Mathias, because it talks, as you mentioned, about demons. It talks about him feeling like a criminal in one point, yet he doesn't have a record. And that's why I said, John, like, you've got to look at these. What do these mean? This can't all be health issues, right?
Well, one of them, let's talk about that, John. In 2011, he's sort of latching onto this toxin theory. He says, I'm going to talk to a good neurologist about this, one that is very open-minded. I think this really is the cause. It might be the arteries being inflamed. It could hurt very bad. This seriously could be an issue that's undiagnosed. And then he goes on in 2011 and starts to tell people how to treat themselves. Like, he starts kind of telling other users what they need to do for their problems. And here's what he says: visual snow is caused by toxins in our body. These toxins range from yeast overgrowth all the way to fungus. I believe I caused my visual snow by too much toxins from the sweetener I used, and also too much caffeine chemicals. I also lived in a moldy house. When something is happening in your brain that shouldn't, chemicals are being released that shouldn't. These chemicals are released because we have toxins that our body doesn't want. It is going haywire. John, do we know if this might have been the start of of him becoming a vegan to try to treat himself? Because it certainly looks like he's telling everybody to, eat plant-based diets and fruit juices to heal themselves.
It does seem like he became vegan around that time. This is also a time that's consistent with him losing a significant amount of weight. One point I want to make, though, about the visual snow is that, to me, one of the issues here is that he wants to attribute all of his problems and all of his mental health problems to the visual snow, right? And that's a big question mark about whether is the visual snow causing the mental illness, or is it the other way around? Is it the mental illness that's contributing to physical and somatic symptoms? Psychologists call that somatization. So I think it's a stretch to go from visual snow to the things he's talking about, the screams, the demons, right? Those are in the moral domain. Those are not in the medical domain. So he's taking some of these medical issues and he's trying to force them into this mental illness box, I think, to some degree, when in fact we're probably talking about something that has more to do with values and is more about moral judgments, like being a criminal, than it is about medical issues.
And this one last line, he says, I feel like coming to terms could be a bad thing. It's ominous. Excellent work, both of you, Lauren Mathias and John Mathias. Thank you for watching.
Okay, we're drifting away from
Now, one thing.
the surviving story to talk.
God, I sound like some other creator that I dislike. That voice is driving me crazy.
One thing about the candida overgrowth is when you do the research on candida overgrowth, and this is going to go towards the ASD, is the research has been done on the candida overgrowth concerning not causing ASD, but it contributes to the behaviors of ASD.
Okay. So, I mean,
Like,
it's interesting.
like they talked about his rocking and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, you know me, Gage. Anything I say, I've got receipts. I have the research. I have everything. I mean, and it says that, and the research was actually to see if it caused autism. And all it said was that it contributes to how bad, like some of them will bang their head against the wall, or, if they get, what's it called? When they get too much, when they get too excited.
Yeah, overstimulated. Yeah.
Yeah, when they get overstimulated, and I didn't think anything of it because I was like, well, he don't have autism, I mean, but that is just one definitely part of the research that I found was the candida overgrowth, because it can get in your brain.
Right. Well, the visual snow video that I'm going to show right here is very short, and then we'll discuss everything we talked about from the survivor all the way through this a little bit and some other stuff.
Talk a little bit about the visual snow. I know it's probably been discussed in a lot of different areas, but I thought I'd dive in and try to simplify it so people can kind of understand it and understand the severity that it poses to individuals who express issues with it.
You know, hell, I thought all that was normal. I thought all that was normal. Isn't it crazy, like some of the stuff that whenever you look at like WebMD or something and you're looking for symptoms and you notice something, you're like, oh my God, I got that. Oh my gosh, this is what's wrong with me. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have this happen. Um, Anybody else do that? You know, Nina, have you ever done that? You're muted.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
my mic was taking forever to unmute. I just sent you a video. It's 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, it's
But
interesting.
see,
Like when we don't.
what I researched on the visual snow is the non-physical of how it affected your mentality,
Okay.
and that's what I guess started making me think that he was putting it together to fight to go with an insanity plea or to put it all together. You know what I'm saying? Because of the
Right.
wording and stuff. I mean, you know, the writings were like a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the best way to set it all up? You know, you start 10 years before and you lay the groundwork.
I like what Truth said right here, and you are both onto something a lot. It says the vision issues could have been from opiate analog they give you to get off of heroin, fentanyl, MAT clinic, though. It can also be a side effect of antipsychotics and antidepressants. I wonder that too,
Yeah,
because
he was on because he was on Topamax, and I think Topamax has a lot of major side effects.
yeah, because remember that right there in that video with the visual snow, when that teacher was up at the board writing and you saw that little flash of light
Yeah.
hit the chalkboard. Um, I have that happen sometimes, and I didn't really put any emphasis on it until I saw that video and I was like, okay, this is
Well,
crazy.
see, I've had so many people tell me that with visual snow that there was no way that he could be out driving at night because of the night blindness.
Right.
And I guess that's the reason I went more towards the mentality of it because he self-diagnosed the visual snow.
Yeah.
And I think
It sounds like he did. Yeah.
yeah, and so what happened was the visual snow was just what he found that sort of put him where he was at. You know, went with what he was feeling and stuff.
Right, right. And it's interesting that, you know, like I just said a while ago, when something's going on, we look online to see, okay, let me see what the symptoms are. Let's see what's going on, what this could be. Because let's face it, a lot of people don't want to go to the doctor. They don't have insurance. They don't have the money to go. So they try to
Right.
diagnose themselves. And sometimes, there's a shopping list of all these things, you know? And man, it played with my mind. I stopped reading it after a while. I'm just like, nah, I can't deal with this. I'm just gonna go with it. It's heartburn, or it's a headache, it's allergies, whatever. I'm not gonna go with all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and believe me, you can diagnose yourself off Google into having I'm dying tomorrow.
Of course you can. Can you send that to my email? You sent it to my messenger.
Oh,
I was
shit.
waiting for it. Yeah, I've been waiting for it, and it went to my messenger, not my email.
Yeah,
You
hang
know?
on.
I mean, it's interesting that all this stuff, you know, about the autism, the things that, you know, we learned in the hearing the other day, but the judge was like, so how was he getting his PhD or something like that, right?
Right.
And was like, whoa, I've been asking that question myself. How was he incapable of doing these things while he was progressing throughout his life? I mean, unless he was suffering in silence and nobody knew about it. You get what
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of posts where he talks about that he's going to go to he calls the doctor's name, and it's like this doctor's a real prominent, but I don't know if that was more like, look at me, I'm going to go to this prominent neurologist or something. You know what I'm saying? Because it never comes back and says that he did go.
So before I play this, do you still have a channel? Do you still have?
Yeah, I unprivatized
Okay.
everything.
Okay, so I'm gonna play this. This is something that Nina made, and we're gonna go over it after it's played because obviously it's gonna give more insight on what we're talking about. And I always like to follow not only words with, you know, some kind of factual information. So here we go. Is the music gonna copyright me?
The music is not copyrighted.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, sure.
In a land where freedom reigns, where justice is the crown, they wrote it down in ink so no one could tear it down. They said no cruel chains, no punishment too steep, for the heart of this nation is in the promises we keep. No cruel or unusual, that's the way it's gotta be. In this land of the brave, where we all can live free. No torture in the night, no pain without a fight. The Eighth Amendment stands for what's fair and what's right. They knew the power that the law could hold, and with a steady hand, they
Okay, I'm going to pause this and read a little bit of this because Nina comes from the TikTok realm and I can definitely see it. And I'm like trying to read as fast as possible. That's what
This was some of my earlier videos. Cut me some slack.
Okay. It says mitigation specialists investigate the defendant's life after they examine the defendant's family history, medical history, educational and employment background, and other aspects of their life. They collect evidence, they document the traumas, policy failures, family dynamics, individual choices to shape the defendant's life, present evidence. They assist defense counsel in presenting a coherent case for mitigation. They maintain close contact with the client and their family, and to persuade the client, they may try to persuade the client to accept a plea to a sentence less than death.
shape the world bold. No excess in bail, no burden too great. They built.
So I'm going to leave this on my video. So if you want to go back and read this, feel free to, or Nina can get your address in the comments, your email address, and she can send you this information.
See, what happens is someone has not taught me StreamYard. And so I can't make a video and put this stuff up and talk about it because I don't know how to share documents and stuff. So what I do is I make like a 5-minute video of my research, and then the next video is me talking about it.
Gotcha. But hopefully you'll learn. Hopefully you'll learn.
The foundation on justice, not on hate. No cruel or unusual, that's the way it's gotta be. In this land of the brave, where we all can live.
So give us a synopsis of what you're meaning by this
Okay,
video.
what this is back a couple of months ago. I don't know where I heard it or anything, but I heard that the mitigation expert that Ann Taylor hired died this past summer. Okay. And so I was like, why should that be news? I mean, it just got me thinking. And so I started researching mitigation. And I was like, oh, they're fixing to fight the insanity plea, even though Idaho doesn't have the insanity plea. This is a way to get around it, you know. And so that's when I put these videos out, was saying, look, y'all, they're setting it up to fight the insanity plea. And sure enough, what happened the other day? Oh, well, he can't be put to death because of his ASD, And
Right.
so in my research, this is everything I found, down to, stuff that everything that is quoted in here that he has supposedly is from him. You know what I'm saying? It's not from somebody saying it. It is stuff that he's written, stuff that he's posted, you know, of his conditions and stuff. So everything is from Brian Koberger's post or his mouth. Well, it
Okay.
can be his mouth. I've never heard him talk. But anyway, um, and so, like I said, this is just a little 5-minute video of the research. And so, and this is, golly, this is a couple of months, and the only reason that I started researching it was because when they were talking about the expert dying.
Right.
And then part of it, it may be in the next video, but Eileen Voorhees, in her mitigation, they found that she had borderline personality, went through, her being raped as a child. I mean, all kinds of everything. And she still got put to death. But the reason she got put to death was she refused to allow the mitigation to be used to save her life.
Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. This
And
is
so
evidence
this is,
that mental illness can be used as mitigation evidence to convince the jury that the death penalty is not appropriate. However, this evidence can also backfire on defendants and make juries more likely to choose the death penalty. Some serious mental illnesses include, and we don't know if he has any of these, either past or present or undiagnosed: major depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorder, we've heard of that one, panic disorder, post traumatic stress, borderline personality disorder. Um, we have heard of OCD, but a lot of times individuals that have the obsessive compulsive, they have other underlying personality. My mind ain't working right quick.
and now the rest of this video should go into things that are concerning him. But I had to explain what the mitigation and all that was.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna play it without the music because
And I mean,
that way.
stop anytime you want to stop and read it. If there's one that you see that's interesting, I mean, like I said, from here
You
on out,
tell
it
me.
should be.
You tell me when to stop to read it because I mean, you made the video.
Okay, he was admitted to Brandywine. This is talking about he was admitted to Brandywine Hospital for the eating disorder and the addiction, and that's when he had his skin removal surgery.
Okay.
This is the not the one before that, and that is your non-physical symptoms of visual snow.
Okay.
And that one is, my God, these are hard to read. What have I done? Psychological, wait a minute.
Do
Okay.
y'all know what
Okay, this is explaining dissociation because he talks about dissociation.
dissociation DD is dissociation disorder is basically almost like a superpower whenever you're young. It helps your body deal with extreme stress, or in his case, if he had any underlying PTSD or any of that stuff growing up,
Can I
he
answer
could
this question right quick, Gage? He
do
said,
what?
somebody says, how did you get around HIPAA? This is not at all anything of his doctor or diagnosis or anything like that. This is stuff that he has written about himself.
Okay. So dissociative disorder is almost like when you develop a way to blink out, so to speak. Let's say you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out, you have a lot of different things, your mind won't shut off, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have all these things going on in your life. And your coping skill is whenever you're having a traumatic event happen that triggers that moment, you kind of blink out of your reality and you step outside of your body, so to speak, until you're able to calm down enough to come back into your body, into the reality, to re-coordinate yourself with the reality that is the here and now. You know, a lot of times individuals with dissociative disorder, they don't even really realize that they're exiting their body, so to speak, because it's so common for them to use this as a coping mechanism. The body automatically becomes conditioned to dissociate, so to speak.
Yes, and that also goes along. I mean, I think that with the dissociation also comes like the multiple personalities and stuff like that.
My question to you, though, if he was talking about dissociating, what kind of trauma might he have had that caused this dissociation? Would it have been something from his father or his
Well,
mother?
see, that's another thing is, I think I told you the other night that one of the sisters went into psychology and everything because she suffers from PTSD.
Right.
And Koberger suffers from PTSD. This is stated from himself, okay, that he has PTSD. Now, if you've got two kids that have PTSD, they something up. You have three adult children that majored in psychology. You have three adult children that are unmarried. You have three adult children that have no kids. And two out of three, because Amanda's never spoke, talks about PTSD. I mean, there's something wrong.
Yeah. So this is interesting right here. Why must I dissociate? So, and then you're talking about this. Have you ever felt like this? And like this is
And that's
talking
what he
about,
wrote.
yeah, what he wrote. These are the
Yeah, that big
Tapatalk.
long one is what he wrote.
Always feel as I'm not there. We've heard of this one. Completely
Yeah,
depersonalized. Mentally, I
this is
experience
another
fog,
one that he wrote.
lack of comprehension. Started treatment for hyperthyroidism and also am exercising
Yep.
very heavy. Because he was obviously heavy and he was trying to understand what was causing him not to lose the weight.
And then after this one, I think I go into what hypothyroid can do to your body.
I thought hyperthyroidism was where your body is burning
Yeah,
it
he
quickly.
has hypo.
Yeah, hypothyroid
Yeah, yeah.
thyroidism.
And then this research is stuff that, can come from the thyroid being messed up. And this is Roy Bowmeister that starts talking about the ego depletion. And then this is my email from him. You might want to read that one.
Okay, it says thanks for the interesting email.
Oh, it went to the next page. Yeah.
Threatened
It's
egotism
it's a pretty
and
long
ego
email.
depletion are two of my contribution, but I've never really linked them. I don't think the one escalates into the other, but if they're coincided, it could be trouble. Self control restrains most aggressive impulses. Threatened egotism could create violent impulses, which one might normally restrain, but if depleted, then one might not stop oneself from enacting them.
Yeah, and then the next one is the rest of the email.
If he's already resisted some violent
Yeah,
impulses,
this is the
then he
rest of
might
it.
give in. But still, going to the sorority house and seeking out people to kill seems a bit more premeditated. Not some mental illnesses always weaken self-control, possibly via biochemical processes. Low blood sugar, for example, creates a vulnerability to failing at self-control that I've been told. Low blood sugar is a common occurrence with schizophrenia, for example, and many people have diabetes without knowing it. And ongoing wrestling with inner demons could certainly cause ego depletion. I don't know anything about this particular case, and it would be unprofessional of me to pronounce judgment on a particular person about whom I know nothing. But I can talk about general principles and patterns.
And that's who I'm talking to right now. I'm trying my best to get him to come on and just explain it because Roy Bowmeister, y'all can research him. I mean, he's a very prominent. I mean, he has all kind. I mean, he's written like 40 books. I mean, you know, and he's like he's like the nowadays Freud.
That's a good question, Dolphin. That's a great question. It's asking, would he say that his father was a nice guy if his father had done something to him to traumatize him? That's a good question.
See, everything that I've researched, and this is strictly in my opinion, I think mama and sisters could have been a little overbearing to the father, and he became like he at in his older age, he got to where he didn't like his father because he considered him weak. And because if
These
you,
are great.
I've researched all of their bankruptcies and everything. I've got all the files and everything from it, and most of their bankruptcies are mama just spending, spending, spending.
Yeah,
So I think that
that's
there's
what my doctor has also told me early on in life. I was after I quit drinking and drugging. I did suffer with major depressive disorder and anxiety, and she was wondering if I had thyroid issues because it did run in the family, and come to find out it wasn't. So he probably was weak, the man in a house full of females until Brian came along.
and see that's the one the little video that I made that had the pictures of Melissa Koberger, and I asked the three questions of like, do the family support the family? Because you never okay, even the aunt that came out talking about the pots and pans, she
Hmm.
said that she heard it on the news. I'm sorry if my son did that, I think I would have been talking to my sister about it. She wouldn't have heard it on the news. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So if she's only hearing it on the news and knows, because see, Brian Koberger used to come visit her in Las Vegas,
Okay.
and so for her to not know what's going on and to hear it on the news, there's got to be some kind of dysfunction to where nobody has anything to do with that family. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. And this all is leading into the ego depletion. All this stuff that's being spoken
Yes.
on right here, major depressive disorder statistics, the the narcissistic personality disorder. I did a couple videos in my library, and I might pull out of knock some dust off of them, called the dark triad, which is narcissism,
Yes.
Machiavellism.
Yeah, that big M word.
Yeah, that big word. And there's one more. I can't think of the other one. But it's called the dark triad, and it kind of goes along with this as well. But one thing that's interesting about this, anybody that's ever had major depressive disorder, you are going to be able to relate to this because this is what it says. Also known as unipolar depression or clinical depression, as mental health condition that can affect a significant part of your life, including your mood, your behavior, your thoughts, your sleep, and your appetite. Major depressive disorder brings feelings of sadness that cause you to lose interest in activities you once enjoyed. It impacts your ability to function effectively at home and at work. and may also lead to other emotional and physical issues. A major depressive episode may occur just once in a person's life or might happen more frequently. I want to say this.
That's what I was hospitalized with.
I want to say this right quick before we go on. Nothing that I'm discussing right now is speaking in the aspect of a doctor or a diagnosis. So even though you're reading this and I'm talking about it, and I might be giving you some examples or whatever, think of it just like WebMD. I'm not diagnosing you. Um, if you feel this way and it feels more frequent, or you're thinking of harming yourself or harming somebody else, please call 911 in your area or get to your doctor or to an emergency room as quick as possible, because this is not stuff to play around with, okay? And that's just my disclaimer for everybody, okay?
Well, my disclaimer is a month ago when I got put in the hospital in the psych ward for 7 days, that's what I was diagnosed with. So I totally understand it.
And bipolar disorder is really, I think I'll hold off the rest of this until we start the ego depletion, because I want to bring it in with this, okay?
Okay,
Because
yeah, you usually.
it is a
But
good video.
as a
It is
matter
a
of
good
fact, I
video.
think the video that I did where I'm talking is where I finally figured out how to put stuff on the screen, not through StreamYard, through my video making thing that I've got. And so
Well,
that's where
I've
I'm
tried
talking
to
about,
show you. I've
stuff that
tried
he
to
has.
show you. I've tried to show you, Nina. It takes time. It takes time. You'll get it. But chat, what do you think about all this stuff that we've talked about? Not only the the things about ain't nobody gonna kick you out. You can stay with your opinion. We agree to disagree. So hey,
Oh yeah, he's been very nice. He
nobody has to leave. So don't leave just because you think we're gonna kick you out. This isn't that type of chat. So
No, it's
please
not at all.
please stay, and you're more than welcome to have your opinion. You don't have to agree with everybody in the chat. We agree to disagree. So you're more than welcome to be here. Please don't leave. If you feel that you need to leave, that's up to you, but nobody's going to kick you out, okay? Um so what I was saying as far as this is concerned is, at the very beginning, for those of you that missed the very beginning, it was talking about a University of Buffalo student that had her roommate attacked in a 3-story house, just like it was in the Idaho case. What happened is she felt somebody come into her room. She looked, there was nobody there. She heard some heavy breathing, didn't think of nothing of it, certainly didn't think her roommate was getting attacked. Okay? So she went to sleep. The next morning she woke up, went into her friend's room, called out to her friend. Her friend wasn't responding. She thought that she's choked on some vomit because she could smell some awful smell as she described it. She felt her friend. She wasn't doing well. She called 911. The EMS came. She said she saw some liquid around her friend, but she didn't put it two and two together. When the EMS showed up, at that point, when the EMS walked in the room, she came to and noticed all the blood on the bed, all the blood on the walls, all the blood on her friend, in the hair, and everything else. So she says she wishes she would have called 911 earlier, but she just said that she didn't. This individual was a serial rapist that was stalking them. The same situation in Idaho, even though we don't know whether they're going to prove the stalking or surveying or whatever. But the thing about it is they were going out to bars. They're going to a fraternity party, just like the Idaho Four. What I want to, what I was showing in the correlation with this is this individual survived. And what she said in the end with the interview with Ashley Banfield was quite moving. If you can, if you didn't come in, you might go back and check out that interview, because what she said is really moving about the story. Um, and the second part was the Tapatalk. I don't know if y'all are very versed on the Tapatalk, but I'm not. And that's why I brought Nina up here. I was going to bring some other people up here, but you know, next Friday we're going to start on the ego depletion, which will give you guys some more insight on the personality defects of an individual that could per oh, God, potentially, per, what the word? Damn it, potentially become a killer or someone that could be moved into that arena. Like I said last night, I said the night before, urge, opportunity equals outcome. So what do y'all think about this? Give us some insight. All I see is the
Mountain Mama asked the question if he was ever on medication, and I just put in chat yes. On Tapatalk, he talks about the medications. He also talks about almost ODing on the medications. I mean, he was a troubled teen, very troubled.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
So
one of them I remember is Total Max.
here's a comment that says, I remember the interviews where someone from the school said they put him in the program because there was no females in it.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. He was in he was in it was like a police training. It was, some kind of law enforcement. And he had some problems with the girls, and they put him in the HVAC. And he actually talks about that, he actually resented it because he felt like it was a tumble down from where he was to go into the HVAC.
Let me ask you this, Nina, because you said you watched my show on replay last night.
Yes,
I, in so many words, we're doing ego depletion in real life scenarios. Do
yes,
you agree that, as I was saying, just like the professional football player that I did that live on, he was an awesome athlete, everything was great. He was still committing crimes, but he was able to keep it under wrap. Once he
right.
quit playing football, all of a sudden all these murders stopped, or all these rapes and murders started happening. Do you believe that part of the ego depletion was him losing the situation in life that he tried so hard to maintain? That
Yes,
identity that he was forging.
yes.
The
And I think
student,
that's
the
exactly what happened
professor.
with Brian Koberger.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Do you believe that, he went to DeSales, he went, shit, I don't know where he went after that. It's never really discussed. You probably know, but he went to another place, got his master's, and then he went out west to Pullman. I believe that once he got to Pullman, because he wasn't at the campus very long.
No, I mean,
It was the first semester he started having problem after problem. He was getting pulled over by police left and right. I mean, come on, Nina. You and I have talked
I
about this
honestly
in another
believe
live.
that, I mean, both of us come from addiction and stuff. And I'll be the first one to tell anybody I give him the biggest kudos for everything that he overcome in his life.
Me too.
And when you overcome an eating disorder, when you overcome addiction, when you are jogging 6 miles, when you're doing kickboxing, when you're doing a strict diet, that takes so much strength and so much self discipline that the pride of pulling yourself up out of that kind of ditch and ending up at Washington State as a teaching assistant with degrees and everything, then for it to just all fall apart within 3 months. I mean, within 3 months, everything that he worked for fell apart.
And you know, a lot of people early on were saying that, Nina. They were saying, well, could the fact that he started getting into trouble, getting reprimanded, and then ultimately losing his TA have caught um have sent him into a spiral that he couldn't get out of? Because
Yes,
you know as well as I do that it's not about being the long distance runner, it's about being the sprinter. Maybe he had reached that point and relapsed without anybody knowing.
right. And the thing about it is, everybody wants to talk about, that maybe he relapsed and that it was on meth. The only problem I have with that is heroin is more of I won't say solitary, but it's more of an individual drug. You know what I'm saying? Where meth is more of that, hey, look at me, I'm a part of your drug. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so I just didn't think that his personality went with the meth.
His personality, I mean, I don't know the guy from you. I don't know you. I
Right.
just know you as a voice, as a person, on the internet. But if we're looking at him, which a lot of people do, they look at him and they think, well, he's withdrawn. He's he looks depressed. He never really moves in court. He's stoic. The other day
Yes.
he was moving all around. He was kind of flickering his eyes. He
Oh,
was
hell, he
looking
has
up.
to.
He
He
was
has to now. He's got ASD.
like he was chasing a butterfly, like he was Bambi sitting there looking at the butterfly flying around him. Did you notice
But
that?
the thing about it is everybody wants to say that his past behaviors with females is just hearsay. I debunk that strictly on one thing. When he left WSU, they had a harassment seminar for the whole school. Now, I'm sorry, if there's not something to his behavior, you don't have a harassment seminar after a student leaves.
Well, I believe that what we're hearing a lot more, where there's smoke, there's fire. And a lot of the stuff that we've heard about this individual not only has people attacked because they don't want to believe it or they don't want to put that in their mindset about it. Just like Dolphin just said, he allegedly followed a female WSU student to her car.
Yep,
She was
yep,
frightened by him. Frightened.
yep.
So, it isn't 12 gauge or it isn't Nina putting this stuff out there. It's just common behavior knowledge. If you act this way, then what are you going to say? He's a jovial individual. His affect is jovial. It's demonstrative. He's very sporadic. He's very, all over the place. No, he's not. I was looking at his appearance, blown pupils, drastic weight loss, and his nonstop hours of being up all night.
Right.
What that tell you as an ex law enforcement? Bullets. What that tell you? Think about Tinder chick. He followed her to the bathroom, manipulated his way into her apartment. It's also documented
And
at the bar he
again,
went.
the statement that he made to her about the birthing hips, they talk about the movie American Psycho and him with the picture with the thumbs up, and the birthing hips is a statement from a 2012 movie.
You know, Truth made a comment the other night, and it just tickled me off to no get out. It is the comment of the year. She said, I was looking at AT, and God, I can't even remember all of it, but she said she had those birthing hips going on, and her ass looks like a government mule or something like.
But
And I
you
was
said something. I don't know if it was your live last night but you made a statement about, okay, you know how they talk about the bond that he has with Massoff? And you said something about brunette. Gage, think about the 6 pictures that I've sent you. They're all brunette.
like, think about his sisters.
That's what I'm talking about. Melissa's a brunette. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, Amanda's a dirty blonde, which could be.
Right, right. Okay, Truth, type it again. That way we can get a good laugh because that was hilarious. That was hilarious. Um,
And I really do appreciate you talking about the DNA in the car, too.
yeah, I mean, I give credit where credit's due. You know what I mean? I don't take it for myself.
But I
It
mean,
was all
if you think about it, that's got to be, if there's no DNA, then you've cleaned your car.
Here's the comment right here. She said, AT has them birthing hips though, ass built like a government mule. Okay, that is quote unquote from Truth Exposed. I mean, that is as comical as it gets. You know, ass built like a government mule.
Wow.
That must be a southern thing. A southern.
Oh, I think somebody asked me where I was from because of my southern accent. I'm in Alabama. I'm an Alabama girl.
That's a great one, Truth. But I don't believe that blondes were his type. I believe brunettes were his type. I never thought that before. That's why it would have been easier to kill the blondes first
Right.
and save the last to savor the kill.
And I
So
think
if we
that
look at
when he
it, if we
said,
look at it that respect, Xana would have been the target. The others were just collateral damage.
Xana's always been the target as far as I'm concerned.
And it definitely his type, and he's probably been creeping her out. Have you noticed that she has been sitting further and further away from him?
But I mean, I think if you put it together with the prototype, I think it started with Melissa Koberger, and I think that's the reason that she has PTSD. And
So,
this is all my
can you
opinion.
explain very mildly? Hey, Dark Square, thank you for being here. Can you explain to Dolphin exactly why or what makes
What
brunettes?
makes me think the brunette?
Yeah,
Do you have that picture?
somewhere. Just tell her. I mean, she knows the
Okay.
case just as good as you.
If you take Melissa Koberger, Xana Kernodle, Ashley Flugel, Amanda Montana, remember the name Montana? Oh my gosh, Emily Coral and Nicole Murray. That is six females that are around Brian Koberger, and 3 are dead, 2 are missing. His sister's the only one that you know where she is or anything like that. Nicole Murray was found like 2.8 miles from his house. Ashley Flugel, of course, looks just like Xana, which they both look just like Melissa Koberger. And when I say just like, I don't mean identical. I'm talking as far as type. You know what I'm saying? They've got the
Yeah.
round eyes. They're all brunette. Um, I mean, it's uncanny when you see all 6 of them together.
Hey, Brian. Thank you for being here, buddy. I haven't seen you in here in a long time. And truth is on one
But
tonight. It says
again, I,
Kroger's still hanging in there like a damn stringy hair in a biscuit.
but the thing about it is, like everything I talk about is stuff that I've put together from research and stuff like that. It is strictly just my opinion. That's it.
What about the blonde whose mother was interviewed about his crush? It wasn't Tinder Chick a blonde when he went on a date?
Well, she was a redhead, but we don't know was a redhead.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to know if he had really. Do you have info on those brunettes on your channel? I think she does have
Oh
a
yeah,
video on.
let's see, I've got a video called Prototype, and then I have a whole series of ego depletion and everything, which we're going to do next Friday. But I mean, I have talked, you can ask Gage. I have brought this up. I mean, we're talking some of these videos are 6 months, 8 months. I
Hey,
mean,
mods, if you could put the creators' links in the chat, please. Dark Square says brunettes are simply not away from his family. He is comfortable to the company in the company. I cannot accuse beyond the four. And his mother's look, brunettes are not basic. If you look it up, brunettes have to, and that's where it cut off. Stand out with
I,
mine.
I sent you that picture, 12.
Okay, hold on a second.
12. Why did I call you 12? I always call you Gage.
We're working hard up here for you guys tonight. I'm under this light, sweating like a hamburger, getting getting staler by the minute. Jesus, this, these lights are they just cook you to a crisp. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I mean, we're not really making fun of any of this. We're trying to be as serious as possible, and you guys are making it enjoyable with the questions that you're asking. Have you guys done a stream highlighting the behaviors and differences between a psycho? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I got plenty of those videos in my library if you'd like to go and look at them. There's a lot of them. A lot of them. I
Oh
have a
Lord,
lot
Truth wants
of
to
them.
ask me a question. I get scared when Truth wants to ask a question.
Here, Truth as can ask Nina a question.
Honey, y'all can ask me anything. I'm so transparent. Be careful what you ask.
Okay, go ahead. Awesome. Where's the question, Truth? Thank you for that. You are too kind. You are too kind. Judge family has huge financial ties with the U of I. Okay,
Now,
here it
I
is.
will say, as far as the U of
Here's the
I
question.
don't
Hold on
think
before you.
anybody from the U of I had anything to do with it, but I will say this. They took full advantage of it.
Here's the question. The chick in BK's life that overdosed, was he there with her when it happened?
He was one he was suspected, but it became, they ruled it a heroin overdose. The guy that was there with her, he left. But it's never been stated that Koberger was there, but it's never been stated that he wasn't. And she overdosed on Lindsay Lane. That's where if you'll see Leslie talk about the Lane sisters and stuff, that's what we're talking about is Lindsay Lane and Linda Lane.
Dark Square, go ahead and hit me with the question. We're here to answer at this point. We're we're kind of saving the rest for next Friday. She has a concern regarding the pretrial process. I'll do what I can to answer that. It is hot, bro. It is like I'm cooking under this heat lamp for real.
Did you get the picture?
Do what?
Did you get the picture?
No, not yet. You probably sent it to my messenger
I
again.
sent it to your email.
That's a sister. And Heather Fitzgerald. Is Heather in here? No problem. People keep asking me if I have a channel, but I prefer to participate, let other people chat or hop onto a panel here and there. Nina, I got so frustrated with PT motions. We've had to accept the fact that there are decisions of how info. I'll wait for the rest of it. I noticed when the judge mentioned the purchase of the knife, you seen its left hand kind of flicker like no move, weird, his arm. Also think that he's trying to look meek. They're not putting him a suit anymore, so he doesn't look so broad-shouldered. They're playing games. Gets let in. That being said, we should let the judge say his opinion. I agree with you. I don't know if she's in here. Is she in here? I don't see her if she
No,
is.
she was just saying that when we talk about it, it's Heather Fitzgerald, her, and me. They call us the Lane sisters because they make fun of me. Heather Fitzgerald made fun of me one night. I was on panel with you, and I was talking about Lindsay Lane and Linda Lane.
Okay. We don't know as a group, Shy or Furman. It's interesting that Furman got involved in this case. I do not think I can get my channel up. Yeah, you can. You can do it. Yes, you can. Enough people know you. Enough people know you. And when you get it up and going, just come in here and we'll drop the link and some people go check you out. I will do that. I will do that. But Brian, you know as well as I do that, I try to stick to a lot of different aspects, but I will do that just for you. Especially if she wasn't digging at Advance or Crush. So are we talking about the one that OD'd?
Oh,
Or is this
Ashley Flugel, yes, he was infatuated with her, but she was a lesbian.
So are you insinuating, Truth, that possibly he could have been involved with her OD?
Oh, I totally think so.
You think that, Nina?
Yeah, I think he's involved with all those girls that I sent you the picture of.
That dog sounds mean. Dang. Is your dog racist? I can't visit that home. That dog tear me up.
Yeah, she's a Great Pyrenean Husky.
No, ma'am. Be like, you put your dog up first before I get near
Yeah,
your
I
house.
also got a red-nosed pit too.
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm not falling for any of that. It does make people not take better opinions of such, of each. I will keep my opinion to myself, as you know my situation, Gage. No, you're free to share your opinions as you wish. We're here to agree to disagree, and that's what my channel's about. We just don't, like I've always said, and those of you that are lurking, I enjoy that a lot of you are coming in here because as long as you're not rude to me, you're not rude to the panel guests, and you're not rude to anybody in the chat, or they're rude to you, we're here to be adults. We're here to be adult. The population of Idaho is only about 2 million, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were connection to family there in larger cities. And the chat's going fast. Appreciate that. Like he puts the chair all the way down so he looks small and he stands up 2 feet taller. Nina, I've reposted that twice and he still didn't see it. No, because I'm still trying to catch up. Nina, are you there? I was tired and frustrated that
Yeah, I
day.
was trying to calm these dogs down. I couldn't hear anything for the dogs barking.
Dark Square, please be you. Yeah, be you, Dark Square. You know better than that. Truth, what have you said? Especially if she went digging on his advances or the crush. Yeah, I believe that stars and all. So you believe that he was out there with her when she OD'd and they were possibly out stargazing, maybe hiking or whatever. I mean, that's a theory. That's a theory. You know, we're not gonna know until the trial about any of this. Nina, this is amazing tonight. All this information is awesome. Excited.
Thank you.
So, anything else you got going on? Let me see if there's anything else I have on this. Let me see. They were
Did
asking
you get
about
the picture?
not yet.
What? Hang on. Hang on.
I tell you, my freaking email takes forever. I don't know why. I know where that sociopath video is, so I can just pull that up.
Well, it says that it's sent.
Hold on, damn it.
Oh, wow. Damn it. Damn it.
Did that come out loud? My bad. Hey, I'm about to play the sociopath versus psychopath video. The chat's going pretty quick, so I'm not ignoring any of you. But here's the video that somebody was asking about a while ago, and let me
Okay,
try to
while
get
you're
the
playing that, I'm
email.
going to.
All right. Okay, I got whatever she was sending me. Okay, let me play this video, then I'll show you the picture that Nina sent me. Here we go.
Taking in all that had happened, before one friend blurted out, he was clearly a psychopath. No, he was a sociopath, another friend offered. The argument between the two went on for some time before they looked at me to bring this to an end. Having been trained in psychiatric conditions in med school, I was the bona fide expert in the group. Of course, I had heard people use the two terms interchangeably, but I never really stopped to think about how to differentiate them. Do you find yourself wondering what the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath really is? Welcome to our channel, where we talk about issues relating to mental health, self-improvement, general medical problems, and the journey to overall wellness. We put out weekly videos on these topics, and our content is based on scientific research.
Okay, Truth. I think this is the one you were asking. It says if he was there when it happened, he could have injected too much into her just to watch her pass away. And I think there is a strong possibility that that could have happened. Here's another question. Let me get this one up before I continue with this video. Do either of you think Brian will take a plea deal? I don't believe that the prosecution will offer him one. I think that they're just, I don't want to say hell bent, but I believe that they're motivated in the direction of the death penalty. I don't think that they will offer a plea deal. Um, I bet my house the DA will not offer a plea. So, yeah. Bingo, JH. Too big a case. You're right. She seemed that the time may have passed. No plea. So the difference between psychopath and sociopath, I forgot which is which from time to time, but I think the psychopath knows enough to fake emotions when they interact with the sociopath doesn't it. I believe that the sociopath is the one that kind of is the chameleon around their overall surrounding. They mold themselves into being exactly where they're at, whatever situation they're in. They can play the role of that person, but yet they struggle with inability to function independently in life regarding rules, laws. The psychopath is born that way, I believe. But let's watch this video and see what the definitions are. I believe that that's what it is, but I could be a little off, so don't shoot the messenger.
And our experience as physicians practicing both Western and
Okay, here we go.
psychopathy. When do we say a person is a psychopath? According to Oxford Learner's Dictionary, a psychopath is a person who has a serious personality disorder that involves not caring about other people's feelings, not feeling sorry when they have done something bad, and wanting to be violent or cruel to others. Are psychopaths born? I know that you have heard of this famous saying that psychopaths are born. Indeed, psychopathy has been associated with genetic predispositions. In psychopathy, the amygdala, a part of the brain that controls how a person responds to potentially harmful or scary situations, is thought to be dysfunctional. This is clearly shown when psychopaths are watching murder and bloody scenes. Instead of being uncomfortable and disturbed by everything, they are, in fact, calm and may even laugh at the scene. This area of the brain also aids in controlling emotions. Psychopaths have been found to have modifications to the structure and operation of specific brain regions, including the prefrontal cortex, temporal cortex, and paralimbic structures, which function.
So that's interesting because the prefrontal cortex, if there's any kind of damage to that prefrontal cortex, then that would have only increased his psychopathy. If there was already predisposition for it, if there was any kind of damage to this prefrontal cortex arena, that would have only inhibited the psychopathy to be able to exhiberate throughout time.
Function at a lower level. Sometimes, this causes them to experience odor-related issues. Their ability to distinguish between various odors declines, with increasing psychopathy scores on the standard tests. However, the environment is thought to contribute as well to some extent. How to spot psychopathy in children. Children who exhibit callous unemotional traits, lack of empathy and guilt, shallow emotions, are more likely to grow up to be psychopaths. These kids tend to engage in aggressive and antisocial behavior, such as bullying. They are also less likely to recognize a frightening look and are less likely to react to socially rewarding stimuli, like pleasant expressions. Teenagers that exhibit early traits of psychopathy, like lack of empathy, may also be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. They are also less likely to make lifelong friends, since they cannot find delight in these bonds. Social relationships. Psychopaths are typically unable to establish true emotional connections with others. They tend to form superficial bonds that they later use to their benefit. And despite the obvious harm they cause, psychopaths never regret their actions. They typically create a
So, based on what we're hearing right here, if you were going to put any of these things into if what we know about this individual, how could this have escalated throughout time? Yes, they do. It's just amazing how all this correlates together and how if you look at this, you're thinking, well, did he have psychopathy? Was he a sociopath? I mean, you have to really sit down and talk to somebody and watch their patterns before you can say one or the other, you know?
symbiotic or parasitic connections, and can be almost compulsively ordered while maintaining the appearance of normalcy in their social interactions. So what really makes these people enjoy manipulating others? It turns out that dopamine, a chemical that awakens our brain's reward centers, is overproduced and overvalued in the brains of psychopaths. Why do psychopaths think that influencing others will make them feel good? Their dopamine receptors go into overdrive, providing them with motivation and considerably enhancing their desire to get their own way. Their life in crime. When committing crimes, psychopaths typically do so in a method that poses the least risk to themselves. They will meticulously plan their offenses to avoid detection and have backup plans ready for any eventuality. Due to their inability to empathize, psychopaths do not experience regret for their behavior. Psychopaths are prevalent among serial killers. Career paths. According to a 2013 Oxford scholar, Kevin Dutton's study, some occupations draw psychopaths. They arrive in large numbers to fill open positions as police officers, attorneys, and doctors. CEO is the most noteworthy occupation for a psychopath. They love their
So didn't Brian want to be a police officer or a member of the police officer in the capacity of forensic cloud specialist?
occupations and make an effort to win others' respect and trust. This is due to the fact that while not being able to feel them, they are highly adept at mimicking human social emotions. Thanks to this, they can masterfully manipulate people's behaviors. Highly positive attitude. An interesting fact about these people is that psychopaths typically provide 100% effort. Since they are so motivated by rewards, they have a very strong positive attitude. Instead of concentrating on the potential downside, they emphasize on the potential upside, which drives them to exert more effort because they only perceive the benefit. If things don't work out their way, they may go to extremes. Short concentration span. One of the less well-known characteristics of a psychopath is a short attention span, which can manifest in ways that are comparable to ADD or ADHD symptoms. Psychopaths.
That's what I was going to say earlier. The OCD, is it really an obsessive compulsive, or is it the inability to not have that perfectionistic behavior of being clean? Like, did he grow up being abused because of lack of cleanliness? I mean, a lot of this stuff, if you dig deep in this, you're either going to get lost in it or it's going to make sense to you and you're going to start thinking more and more deeply on it and it's going to make sense to you. But most people get lost and they can never come out. So it's not recommended to dig deep into this stuff unless you really know how to make your way back out.
Are constantly searching for more exciting or amusing things to do or see. Since they are easily bored with mundane activities, tasks, and people. They may also experience a sudden loss of interest in objectives, undertakings, or connections that had previously been highly essential to them. This may also be related to a history of making careless decisions or quitting commitments or initiatives before they are completed. Twisted minds. Psychopaths frequently have abnormal thoughts because of the way their brains are wired. As a result, they might say or see things that are weird, strange, or off-putting in casual interactions. A psychopath may also occasionally give a startling glimpse into their surprising minds when they discuss odd things they enjoy, make hurtful remarks about other people, or make it apparent that they don't care about other people. Compulsive liars. Pathological lying is a trait that many psychopaths exhibit. They could embellish the truth to forward their agenda, boost their ego, or influence others to think, feel, or act in a certain manner. The majority of people with normal emotions experience remorse or at least some level of concern when they lie. But for psychopaths, lying is guiltless due to the lack of conscience. Deception is indeed a recognized symptom of psychopathy, and it can even manifest as someone faking regret, empathy, or care and concern for others. Is there treatment?
It's okay. I'm going to help you.
The best therapies for treating psychopathy are those that use many modalities. This means that treatment approaches need to incorporate numerous options, including psychotherapy, development of behavioral skills, and the recognition of the important roles that family, school, peers, and the community play. Patients who do not react to other interventions are typically the only ones for whom medications are advised. This was psychopathy in a nutshell. As we had discussed earlier, people frequently confuse it with sociopathy. So let's look into this entity in more detail. Sociopathy. According to the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, a sociopath is a person who has a mental illness and who behaves in an aggressive or dangerous way towards other people. Are sociopaths made? The word sociopath is used when antisocial behavior is brought on by a brain injury or harmful sociocultural elements, such as parental neglect, peers who engage in criminal activity, belief systems, and upbringing. They are majorly a product of their surrounding environment. They have little conscience. Sociopaths are not all cold-hearted like psychopaths. They do have the ability to feel remorse and guilt. And although empathy and guilt can exist in sociopaths, they usually lack the strength to override their impulsive and erratic conduct. Meanwhile,
these individuals are more prone to treatment than the psychopathy. These individuals are more prone to cognitive intervention, the cognitive behavior therapy. You can kind of reprogram them a little bit and they will be more successful in society. And sometimes they relapse and go backwards, but they're rehabilitatable. The others,
their connections might sometimes feel normal, at least with those they are close to. Highly impulsive. When a sociopath commits a crime, they may do so on the spur of the moment, and with little thought to the risks or repercussions of their choices. They may easily become agitated and angry, which could lead to violent outbursts on occasion. The likelihood of catching a sociopath rises as a result of these actions. Poor career life. Sociopaths are not usually in a position to keep their jobs. They typically avoid attracting attention to themselves or interacting with coworkers. They prefer to work at the periphery of the society, like selling drugs, where they do not get to interact on a one-on-one basis with people for a long time. Is there treatment? Medication, counseling, or a combination of the two can be used to treat sociopathy. Still, it's crucial to remember that many sociopaths reject treatment because they don't think anything can be done to change their conduct. Some doctors do not advise these techniques to properly cure someone from sociopathy because the harsher medications could result in sociopathy being cured by masking symptoms and reverting to their old selves as soon as the medication is stopped. There are notable...
I see your question. I just typed back, it would be less viable a sociopath would murder unless given a need. Because psychopaths would not have the feeling or the inability to stop themselves from the urge. A sociopath would at least give themselves the opportunity not to go to that extreme unless pushed or defending or some kind of mental bravado. Does that make sense, Dolphin?
Notable differences between the two disorders, psychopathy and sociopathy, how they handle crime, how they are in their careers, and even what their social relationships are like. But we also see that their behaviors can overlap, making it hard to differentiate between the two disorders. And this overlap has caused problems for people over the years. In the childhood era, the two conditions are frequently labeled as conduct misbehavior, and hence, the two are used interchangeably. they also become different as time goes by. Here are some easy examples from the media. Jeffrey Dahmer, from the recent Netflix murder documentary, is a psychopath. He is very meticulous in his plans and is fascinated by death and blood. He has no remorse and lacks empathy. For sociology,
And that's the thing that I heard about Brian very early on, is that he had a lack of empathy. And I've also heard he was obsessed with blood. I don't remember where I heard that, but I heard, and I even did a video on it, was the killer obsessed with blood. Nina, have you ever heard that?
I promise I'm trying to get my microphone to work. No, I had never heard that.
Okay. Yeah, I have a video in my library that explains the fascination with
a
blood.
clear example is Tommy from the series Power. Tommy is very impulsive and lacks a plan while executing his crimes, and he also feels some remorse when he goes too far. So, what was your favorite bit of information from today's video? Have you had to deal with real psychopaths or sociopaths in your life? Sound off in the comments and give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.
What y'all think about that? Did that answer some questions for you guys?
See, the only thing I ever remember about psychopaths and sociopaths is one is born and one is made.
Is Dolphin
Did
still
you
in here?
picture? There it is.
Here's the
Okay,
picture.
so the big one is Ashley Flugel. That's the one that overdosed. Emily Coral is up in the top left. Now, Emily Coral came up from a comment on one of my videos telling me that there's another prototype that went to Brandywine with him, and she's missing. So, of course, I had to go research her. Amanda Montana is in the middle, and what brought my attention to her was her last name being Montana. Because remember something about a letter from Montana or a letter to Montana, but we didn't know if it was a person or a state. Well, her last name is Montana. Nicole Murray is in the top right. She was found dead 2.8 miles from his house. And of course, the middle is Melissa Koberger. And then, of course, the bottom right is Xana Kernodle. Now, you tell me that all 6 of them don't have some kind of resemblance.
But here's the $1 million question. Why would we want to kill all of them? If he is indeed
Why?
a killer, what would give him the motive to kill this resemblance? What does it
I
represent?
think
What does it
that
represent in his life?
that's where I think that comes back to what we're missing in the family life. You
Okay.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it starts with Melissa Koberger.
Okay.
And then that could have led to his infatuation with Ashley. Now, Emily went to Brandywine with him. Amanda is in the group with Ashley Flugel, so that's how he knew her. Nicole Murray, she was a heroin addict that a guy named Poconos Bob picked up in Philadelphia off of Kensington Street and took back to his trailer, and that's where the heroin addicts got high at, which was only like 3 miles from where Brian was. And Brian would go to Poconos Bob's house and get high with Ashley Flugel and all them.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. I'm not saying that he had to have a motive, but you understand the representation when it comes to these killers, as we've read in the New Evil by Dr. Bricado. Sometimes these killers kill these individuals because of the representation of what they've been wanting to get themselves away from most of their lives. So whether it represents mothers, whether it represents fathers, whether it represents sisters, that's why I was asking you about that. Is there a representation with all these females being reenacted in his life? He didn't kill all of them, but that doesn't mean that he didn't want to harm them at any point in their lives. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, and I'm not saying that he was there when she died. I mean, I'm not saying that he did any of this. I just, through my research, finding these people, I mean, I was like, my God, look how much they resemble. I mean, and then they're all surrounded around. I mean, somehow or another, they're connected to Coburn. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
mean, and then, okay, there's three girls that stated that he used to hang out at the U of I student center or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, the union.
So when I'm researching that, I find in the comments, because see, when I'm researching, I read every comment just to see if there's anything, that pops out. Well, there's a comment that comes through that says, well, you might want to research what happened at DeSales Library. So, of course, that's where I go. So I go to DeSales Library and I find out that he had a confrontation with a student at DeSales Library, and I'm reading those comments. Well, in the comments, here comes, well, they may want to investigate what happened in Moscow, Pennsylvania. And that's how all this just sort of comes in is through, one thing leads to another. But what it comes down to is around the time of all this, when he was younger, there was a peeping Tom at Camel something ski resort, which is close to his house. Then there was Nicole Murray that happened right after that. But anyway, it's all, but I'm still researching Moscow, Pennsylvania, but I was in shock when I was like, my God, there's a Moscow, Pennsylvania close to him. I mean, you know, and it's like, my gosh, you can make any piece of a puzzle fit in this puzzle.
But like I said, when there's smoke, there's fire.
And believe me, I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna accuse anybody. I just thought that it was really interesting. And the Ashley Flugel is how I come across and started researching the ego depletion. And that's how I think Xana was the target.
Okay. I mean, like I said at the very beginning, and I've stuck to this, um, they all were the target eventually,
Right.
All four of them died. So, not like one lived and three were mortally wounded. They all died. So, they all were the target of his attack. So, to try to break that down into who was the more of a victim, it's I would say that would
See, I
be kind
think that what happened with Xana was he thought that she was dead. And then when he came down the stairs, he heard her whimpering. And that's when he went in there and said, I'm going to help you. And then did what he did. But I think he heard her whimpering and realized she wasn't dead.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And then Bullets and Bling said something about the sisters being unmarried. They're all three adult children are unmarried with no kids. And all three of them have majored in psychology.
All right. Well, we're getting to that point. Does anybody else have any comments, questions that we can answer for you before we wrap this up? Because we've almost been on 2.5 hours. Thank you so much for those of you that are watching from the sidelines and those of you that are watching in the chat and communicating in the chat. It's gone awesome tonight. Thank you so much. Like I've said before, this chat needs to grow in order for conversation to be had. As you've seen tonight, we can have conversation without kicking people out, blocking them, and having rude comments or just over the top remarks. You know, we're adults in here. We can use our words without being derogatory. Anybody else?
Exactly. And I mean, the thing about it is, I may be labeled a guilter, but I'll tell anybody that if anything comes up that says, wait a minute, he may be innocent, I am not closed minded to that. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I have no clue.
Leslie said we're not ready to end. I think he said nobody can help you because, yeah, I mean, that might
Oh,
be.
wow. I've never thought about that.
I mean, she said that before in some other chats, and that could be very possible. As we know, a lot of words can be misconstrued, and if you were in and out of consciousness, you can only pick up certain syllables. She might have overheard what that said.
Well,
Nobody,
in
nobody can help
the
you.
footage of the girls and Joe Jack
Yeah,
Showalter, where it said people say that he says they're going to get you for that.
yeah,
Somebody said that we're going to get you some grub, Maddie,
yeah.
and that it was totally innocent.
It was. I mean, we're really, and I'm going to say this now, and I've said it in other videos. People are going to be surprised and shocked when trial comes that this is going to be the most undramatic, on fireworks all over the place type thing that it's been made out to be. It's going to
Oh,
probably be very,
I think it's going to be told in opening statements.
yeah, I believe it's going to be very cut and dry, very to the point, and then they're going to have it laid out for the jury. It's going to be very cut and dry.
Steve said Maddie had told.
And Maddie had told Adam that Kaylee wanted to get back with Jack, and that's the whole simple thing about it. And everybody made a big thing about her saying that. Yeah.
And see,
Thank you
everybody
so
wants to
much.
make a big deal out of that black jacket.
Thank you so much for the mods working hard tonight. Y'all did a wonderful job. Like I told the people last night, the more people we have in chat that hold each other accountable, these mods, their job is made easier because, in all essence, the chat is everybody's. There's no need for moderators if we all hold each other accountable and we don't try to muscle one another whenever you don't believe something. I mean, it's okay to disagree. You don't have to fight about it. There's no need for that, you know? And you're right. Cases are won and lost in opening statements.
And the thing about it is, don't let a case divide us.
Hmm. Yeah. Nina, anything
I mean,
else?
because the Koberger case is going to be over one day. Now, is it going to, dredge out with appeals and everything? Yeah. But as far as the court this year, it's going to be over.
Anything
And
else?
then those people we've thrown to the wayside, we're going to miss them.
I'm going to play this right quick, Nina, and then we'll sign off, okay?
Okay.
Let's put a smile on your faces tonight. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope that y'all come back and that y'all continue to feel that this is a great landing spot for you guys. Pass the word. Let people know we're here to stay. Nina, anything? Any
I
last
look forward
word?
to Friday.
Huh?
I look forward to next Friday.
All right. All right. All righty. Maestro, y'all cue that music, and we're out of here. Y'all have a wonderful weekend.